All right, ladies, gentlemen, gamers, and TikTok enjoyers, reaction lovers, and personal favorites of mine, welcome back to another TikTok reaction. So, I spent the majority of my Friday, because we usually do these on Fridays, doing nothing, and then I felt guilty about doing nothing, although I don't want to do anything. So, I forced myself to get up, sit my ass down, and react to some TikToks. So I believe, don't quote me on this one, but I believe we are in number 13 now. While the series might not be doing too well, and that's purely because YouTube is glitching out and its numbers are not showing up properly, because I know these are getting tens of thousands of views, if not hundreds. But that's okay, YouTube will eventually fix it. You know, I talked to the CEO of YouTube, Susan, and she said she'll get it done. Anyway, we are here to react to some TikToks. I have Chipotle with me, both chips and the bowl, so you might hear me munching down on stuff. So we are very behind, as we always are. We're even further behind than before, and you wouldn't believe what a trouble it was to get this working. The more I send to myself, the further back I have to go to resume where we were last time. And I have to clear the cookies of the site like 5 times. I have to reload the page, log out, log in. I think TikTok thinks I'm hacking it and I'm trying to like steal our data back for America. So they bar me from accessing the site every time this happens. And I have to wait like 5 whole minutes to try again. It's a whole mess. Basically, what I'm saying is it's a whole mess to do this crap. Excuse me. And each and every time it gets worse because I have to go further back. So hopefully we could get through a good many this time. Hopefully I won't spend too much reacting to each individual video, and we could actually just sit here and enjoy the show while I eat my food. But my big ass mouth is probably going to open as always. So without any further ado, let's get into it. But before we get into it, I stream every day at Twitch TV/Tecnics channel. I don't stream this. I usually stream everything else, and that's because I know better, because this shit has copyrighted stuff in it. But anyway, Twitch TV/Tecnics channel. Come there every day, usually at night. We play games, we hang out, we chill, and we do the same thing. Anyway, let's get started while I eat my Chipotle. Ooh!
Trouble for Gen Z in the workplace.
Oh no, that's
Employers are
me!
reporting that this generation is the most difficult to work with.
Alright, so 7 seconds and I already got something to say. So, this is ironic too, because recently, or fairly recently at this point, I don't know if we've even gone to reacting to it yet in the TikTok reactions, because I know I sent it to myself eventually. But essentially, my generation, Generation Z, is very hard to work with, but that's different from the other generations which are older. So, right now, or currently, in Florida, Ron DeSantis, in all his high mighty knowledge, decided to ban immigrants. I believe the illegal ones. And because of that, all of the farmland and all of the work that no one wants to do, that the immigrants do, have to get taken up by regular people. And regular people are doing such a bad job. They're lazy, they don't come into work on time, they don't want to work that hard. Again, they're lazy. That the owners are complaining, like, oh, we need immigrants back. And it's really sad because they're basically like arguing, oh, let's get back a workforce that we can exploit. But that's different than Gen Z, I would like to say. Gen Z, well, there's always going to be lazy people in every generation. I believe Gen Z personally is the generation where we have our eyes open. I always say these two things are the biggest equalizing factors in history. It's guns and it's the internet. And Gen Z grew up with the internet. And what did we do by growing up with the internet? We saw the truth. We saw, hey, our bosses are making this much money, they're getting this many bonuses, they're not really doing jack shit, they're just sitting down talking to other rich assholes. We're doing all the work, it's not fair, we can barely live because inflation's going out of control and we have to starve, working most of our day for what, while they're not even working as hard as us and getting everything. I mean, that's how it goes with the rich and the poor. But finally, my generation is privy to it because of the internet. And they're kind of saying, like, okay, I don't think most of Generation Z is lazy. Generation Z is saying, like, okay, we're not going to do this bullshit unless we're properly compensated. And basically, we don't allow employers to walk all over us. Now, again, there are lazy people, but overall, we're the most difficult to work with because we don't accept all the bullshit that's been happening, or at least we try not to. And they coin terms like, quiet quitting to try and shame us. Man, yo, fuck that. I love quiet quitting. Quiet quit all you want, because you know what quiet quitting means? Following the rules to how you were hired. If you're gonna do more, you should be paid more. But enough of my personal opinions. Let's go more than 7 seconds in the fucking video.
You want to know what's funny?
Ah,
Come
yes,
here.
this guy.
It's not that the new generation is more difficult to work with, it's
They
that
are.
the older generation is more difficult to work for,
That's another
right?
way of
Because
putting
in the
it.
article, it further explains that the newer generation is more difficult to work with, right? Because apparently they're easily offended.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie. This is very true. There's a lot of my generation, and I feel like I could say this because I'm a part of Gen Z. Although some of us might disagree with that. My own generation might crucify me for this. But we are pretty snowflakey. Like, let's be honest. It's because we're exposed to more things and a lot more stuff is being allowed, the changing of times and whatnot. But I'll be honest, we are more easily offended. Most of us. Well, I don't want to use all encompassing statements because I don't know the exact number, but a lot of Gen Z is easily offended. Now, I'm going to stop myself from saying how because that's really going to dig me a mode I can't, climb out of. But I would give this one some credence. I would give this one some relevance.
Get so close right now. I promise you it's the
Mm.
older generation that is more offended than anybody else. If you don't believe me, go to your boss and ask for a raise and watch how offended everybody gets, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or put in your 2 week notice and watch how personal your boss takes that.
You know what's funny? We don't even do 2 week notices. My generation is infamous for saying like, "Oh, you don't want to respect me? I'm not giving my 2 week notice. Fuck you." There's things in this world that just make no sense to me. Like why my nose is fucking with me right now. But the other things that don't make sense to me is number one, tipping culture, and I'm not going to go into that. I just don't understand how places of business are allowed to pay their workers less than a livable wage because they expect people to pick up the slack, which is so stupid to me. And just because that's been the way it is doesn't mean it should continue being the way it is. If some machine is operating and it's broken, but it's still barely functioning, why fix it, right? That's such a stupid way of thinking about it. But anyway, tipping culture is its own animal. The second thing, excuse me, that doesn't make sense to me is 2 weeks notice. 2 weeks notice is for the employer, but do they give you 2 weeks notice when they're gonna fire you? No, they just kick your ass out. Now, I have heard of some places giving you some time to kind of like ease out, but that is such of the minority. Again, no actual numbers because I'm doing reactions, but that is such the minority that it's basically almost zero. It does exist, but it's so rare it doesn't even matter in the grand scheme of things. So I never understood that 2 weeks notice bullshit. You're not going to give me 2 weeks notice before you fire me and ruin my life because I can't make enough money to live. So why should I give you 2 weeks notice so you could find my cog of a wheel of a replacement? Like it doesn't make any sense.
Right. Another reason was apparently the new generation is untrustworthy. I
Huh.
promise you, during your job interview, when your boss says, we're like a family.
And here's where I'll add my own little anecdotes in. My job, which will remain unnamed for privacy purposes, obviously, but my job has stolen from me or has tried to steal from me my COVID sick time. They actively lied to me about the laws of New York and their lawyers, so it's ironic. They should know the law. But I work for lawyers, and they lied to me about the COVID sick laws, and they tried to take my personal hours instead of providing me the 2 weeks of mandated sick time on them. So they tried to do that, and then obviously they lied to me about the wage of the job because they listed 18 and I got paid less starting. And then they lied to me about the job description. So I don't understand all this bullshit. And ironically enough, you know what he's saying here? We treat them like a family. My job had an employee appreciation day. And the way the culture has become in society, especially in capitalism in New York, has been one of, at least for me, how it's affected me, is I feel bad for buying things from the lawyer, right? Because the lawyer paid for my meal for that lunch. It was at an expensive place, to me at least, right? This place had filet mignon, all the good steaks and stuff for like $50 to $60. And I was like, oh my God. Like, I feel bad for ordering this, but I'm never going to buy this on my own. I can't afford it, nor am I going to go into debt to buy it. It's stupid. So I was like, okay, I'm going to feel bad, which I shouldn't, but I'm going to feel bad for buying it anyway and using this guy's money for such an expensive thing, but fuck it. I'll just feel bad and I'll eat it just to have the experience. First of all, the fucking meat wasn't even all that. It was not worth the $60. And I should have got a more expensive one now that I think about it. But second of all, I feel guilty for spending this guy's money. Meanwhile, this guy makes easily over $100 million. So our culture has become one of just feeling bad for taking money from the rich, and I wonder who designed it that way. It's so sad. And another thing the culture has, which I've mentioned before in the other episodes, is not discussing your wage, which also leads to not unionizing, because unions are the biggest enemy of the employer. Now, granted, unions aren't always that good, and I always like to try and, look at a holistic view, because even though it might seem like I'm fully against employers, I'm really not. It's just employers are kind of taking advantage and they're being pushed too far into power. We still need employers, right? We can't just go and kill them and put their heads on fucking London Bridge after we draw and quarter them. We have to actually have them, but they need to be like good with us. It needs to be respectful. Obviously, no bullshit like, oh, we treat you like a family, so we're gonna have one day of employee appreciation. No, pay me an actual livable wage. Anyway, we're only 51 seconds in, and God knows how long we're already going with this shit. So anyway, let's keep going.
And then you have to take a day off because it's a personal issue, watch them make you feel so guilty for doing so, right? And lastly, they said that the newer generation apparently are lazy. It's not that they're lazy.
And you know what I think it is? I think a lot of us are burned out. I think Gen Z, knowing what I know, right, and doing this series to depress other people like I've been depressed, it makes you just question what can you do against such a system that's broken, that's flawed, that's against you. You either have to be a super ultra hustler and sell your soul, have no fun for the first like 10, 20 years of your life, right? And when I say your life, I mean your working life, right after college. Have no fun for 10 or 20 years after college, right? Maybe 10 if you're really, really a hustler. And then you can maybe enjoy yourself because you have some money. But not everyone is capable of doing that. So at that point, your only option is hope you were born rich. So it's either have extremely hardworking drive or be born rich. If you don't have those two things, you're most likely fucked unless things change around us, which who's going to change them, right? We're in a system where fundamentally many of us cannot do too much unless we're lucky or unless we're really go-getters, like, we're the next Elon Musk or something. To where not much is going to change for us. We have an idea of how our life is going to play out, and it's only getting worse, and it's sad. So what the fuck do you expect us to do? We're burnt out, we see the truth behind the curtain, and we don't like it. That's why we're not gonna give our 2 fucking weeks.
They're not getting paid enough to do more than what they're already hired to do.
Or in my case, do more than that.
That's not called being lazy. That's called taking a stance and having standards.
Big facts. But the problem is, in this society, if you don't do what they want you to do, which is outside your job description, you get fired. And at the end of the day, people need money. Or else you're gonna be on the long homeless line I see after work every day, which I fully expect to join one day. But it's very sad. But we've seen joining the stallion a lot, and he usually says about the same stuff, all towards the worker, which is good. But I'm just questioning his reliability here, because he's not providing sources, and the credible Hulk always likes sources. But anyway, you could see the comments here also agree, but the comments are from my people most likely. Anyway, let's keep going.
I don't think there's anything wrong with adults living with their parents. Matter of fact, I
Facts.
feel the exact same way I felt when I said this.
Household, it is a custom to not move out until.
Child, I'm still living at home. This life shit is hard. It's
That is such a big fact.
expensive and it's ghetto. I can't stand the way people try to make it seem like, oh, you're past your teenage years and you're still living at home. Shit, yes. These jobs don't pay good enough to even afford a one bed, one bath. And that's not including every single other bill and tab you have to pay.
And oh my god, she is preaching, and we're only 30 seconds in. I mean, again, I always mention this in every episode, but I'm just going to repeat things over and over again to really drive it through our heads. But, she's right. Average pay or minimum wage, which is what I believe most people make if we're not having the top earners skew the average, because the median actually says the real thing. Um, it's not enough to even afford a one bed, one bath in the Bronx, which is supposed to be the cheapest of the boroughs in New York City. So if one job, minimum wage full time isn't enough to afford the bare minimum for yourself, you have to room with people, and everyone is crazy now because they're poor, and when you're poor, you fucking do drugs, which hopefully we'll see a video of how crazy that's getting, because I have that queued up. But essentially, she's right, and this is the bullshit, right? After taxes take our money. Already, I've done this calculation before in other episodes where working full-time minimum wage can't even afford average rent if you spend all of your pre-tax money on nothing else, no transportation, no food, no living. The money is literally not yours. If it all went towards rent before you even pay taxes, city, state, federal, anything, all of your money that you will earn working full-time minimum wage will not even be able to cover one bedroom, one bathroom rent. Like, are you serious? So imagine now taxes get taken out. You have to transport yourself, you have to eat. Most people need internet and a phone. And then after all that, oh, you want health insurance? Okay, well, you make too much to be, under the federal poverty line, so you're probably going to be forced to either A, get your jobs one, which is going to further decrease your pay, and it's shitty, or B, have no health insurance at all and probably die. That's an over exaggeration, but not too far off. So at this point, after all that's taken out, if we can't fully afford one bed, one bath on a full time job at minimum wage, what the fuck do we do with like half of that? Like, okay, I guess the main culture in America now is just be in debt. This is where I never understood the whole point of shaming people who live with their parents. Obviously, not everyone's parental life is good, right? Not everyone's relationship with their family is the best, and the first people to hurt you are often your family. But if you don't have a terrible relationship with your family, you can stay with them. That's nothing to be shameful about. That should be praised. Like, oh, you're smart enough to save money? Kudos to you. And the worst part is, our culture is just one of spending and one of extravagance, especially for poor people. Poor people, and I learned this in media, again, the most useless degree ever, but it taught me about the world and society. Poor people will spend more money trying to seem rich than I think the rich people do, unless the rich people have tiny penises. So it's just crazy. But whatever, everything so far this lady is saying is very true.
We're basically paying to breathe at this point.
Facts.
A lot of these jobs want you to be educated, and then even when you are educated, they still pay you some bullshit amount.
Yes.
Even though some young people, some 20, 21-year-olds, even though some of them may be well off financially,
they're either born into it or got extremely lucky or hustlers, right? So I guess it's three options. I said two before. I believe it's three now.
that's literally not the case for most people that age. A lot of us are struggling and trying to still find our identities.
Your identity is to make money for your overlord.
So if you think that we're going to be financially stable by the age of 20, you are absolutely ludicrous. Life doesn't get easier. You just learn how to understand things better.
That is such a fact.
Baby, that video went viral and they drugged me across every single platform.
Damn.
And some of y'all may be like, well, Kaylin, what did you say wrong? Well, shit, I don't know. People dissected that video and everything I had on in it. People was talking about, oh, she talking about this, but she wearing a Gucci bonnet. When have y'all ever went into Gucci and seen Gucci selling bonnets?
So this is sad, but this is just like, this is just the nature of the internet. You put something out there, someone's gonna like it, and many more people are gonna dislike it. I mean, for fuck's sake, look at Mr. Beast, right? Mr. Beast could probably find the cure to cancer, and then some people on the internet will complain like, oh, why did he make a video about it? Like they're entirely missing the point. But anyway, she's completely right, and I guarantee you most of the people who are dragging her through the mud, kind of complaining about her, A, either have nothing better to do, or B, don't live in some place like New York, C, are extreme go-getters who don't understand not everyone's like them and doesn't have the hustle, or D, I think we're up to D, are born wealthy. I don't know if I said that one yet, but I'm kind of, lacking on sleep. But anyway, let's keep going. This woman's speaking facts, though, man.
I bought that bonnet off TikTok for like $12.
Wow.
Oh, maybe.
You know what's crazy? The fact that you could buy shit off TikTok now. I've never done it. I don't even know how to do it. But I heard it was a big thing. Which, kudos to China.
She can't afford to do this because she be going to the nail shop. Y'all see she got her nails done. Those nails were press-on nails that were like $10 from Walmart. Wow, them $10 nails and that $12 bonnet really did put a halt on my progress.
So this is where, honestly, I think I might be a little bit of a relic of the past. I am one of the starting, people in Generation Z, right? So I'm one of the youngest people in Gen Z. There's Gen Zers that are way younger than me, that are like the end of it. But I'm one of the beginning ones, so I kind of take myself as a mix of a Gen Z and a millennial. I believe I'm a millennial. Or, no, I'm not a millennial, but I believe that's the one after, before Gen Z. Jesus Christ. So this is where, to me, right, $10, $12, that's $22 overall. That could be a good meal. Like, and I'm talking about a meal to like last you a couple days. I mean, hell, a gigantic sack of rice. And the sad part is, I'm gonna describe like how to live very cheaply, but that's honestly what you need to do again if you're on minimum wage, right, or anywhere near it. Like a sack of rice is like $9, and you get like 10, 20 pounds for that shit. That shit lasts you. So this is where I would say, like, especially if you're in debt, and I know someone personally with this, if you're in debt, or if you're just struggling to get by, you can't be doing stuff like that. Now some people have the defeatist mentality of, oh, it doesn't matter, what's the point? And it's a valid argument because, especially if you watch my videos and my TikTok reactions, then you're gonna say like this whole system's rigged. What do we do? There's still a point where we can still kind of get by and hope it's gonna get better. I don't think it's to the point where everyone's fucked. I think the people who are stupid are fucked because they don't know how to spend, and they'll spend stupidly. But I think if you're very frugal, at least not in New York, right? Well, in New York you do have to be a little lucky, but in New York, if you have a family or if you could find a decent roommate, which isn't too hard, you just need to have some grit, which again, unfortunately, don't some people don't have, and they end up homeless. And my heart does go out to them. I feel so bad, but you need to have some grit. Just find some roommates, and then pay a little bit of rent, and then just eat cheaply, eat within your means. Don't succumb to this capitalist notion that you're just fucked no matter what you do. You're not completely fucked. You could still have your head above water. Granted, it won't be much, but it's enough to where if there's a boat passing by, the boat will see you and it will save you. But if you're underneath the water crippling debt because you're saying, oh, it doesn't matter, you don't know if a boat's coming by, but if one does, you're not going to be saved at that point. So you always want to, help yourself and at least give yourself the best shot if things get better and things aren't completely doom and gloom yet. But they're pretty doom and gloom, which is what these videos are going to entail.
And getting a house or an apartment or a car, paying this bill or paying that bill. Be for real.
Yes,
and now I'm
tell
bringing
'em.
that conversation right back around. That
Tell
video
'em.
was before having 2 dozen eggs was a flex. That
Mm-hmm.
video was before gas prices shooting up. That video was before rent being increased.
Yeah, I bet you no one's talking after that.
Since I made that video, things have gotten more expensive.
You know what's crazy? And I very much don't like to go near these things because I don't want to be seen as a conspiracy theorist. But again, hopefully with what I'm showing, I'm showing that it's real. It's not conspiracy theories. It's normal people saying the things I'm thinking. But one of the things I honestly wonder is if the rich people pay off. I mean, we know they did this with the election, right? With Russia. It's pretty much like, almost proven, I think beyond a shadow of a doubt. But I wonder if the rich people pay like Russian internet like bots or internet like people to basically like pose as real people in America. Just go on posts like this and say like, "Oh, everything's fine. The American economy's fine." Da 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 da. Push the narrative of it's not that bad. Where I've said this before too. Again, I'm just repeating things, but now, even though the internet has disseminated information and made it widely more accessible, there's also a lot of fake information out there, and it's hard to tell. And don't even get me started about AI. For the last like 3 TikTok like episodes, I think I've been saying I have AI videos. I have AI videos. Hopefully, we get to them. Who knows? Because like I said, I didn't know how long I was gonna talk, but we're already 23 minutes in, and we're on like the second video, I think. So it is what it is. Let's keep going. Let's keep going before I go too long.
Things got more expensive, but ain't nobody being paid more.
Facts.
Let's be for real.
That's actually
Say
true
y'all
and
expected
provable.
20-year-olds to have their own shit, their own place to live, their own
How?
car, this, that, and the third.
How? That's a
For the most
dream.
part,
The
we all
American
graduate
dream.
when we're like 17 or 18.
Yeah, from high
If
school.
we're going to go and get an education that's going to pay well, we're going to have to be in school for a few years.
Get crippling debt.
That goes past the age of 20.
Yes,
Please
sir.
tell me how that's realistic. You have a lot of adults that are even past the age of 20
With lifelong debt.
still at home. Because at the end of the day, age does not really matter. It's
That,
hard.
that is one of the biggest things I've been learning as I've been getting older. Because my birthday was very recently. My birthday was about 3 days ago. Or 2 days ago. No, 3 days ago. And I'm 25 now. Which is crazy to think. I think I'm an old fucking man. And I'm very depressed at where I'm at in life. But depression is the theme of the Dark Dimension TikTok. So anyway, I thought this thing growing up. Fuck, the Chipotle chips are choking me. I thought this thing growing up of, oh, after a certain age, people become adults, they stop having fun. When I was a kid, there was shows that I considered adult shows that, for some reason, to me, I didn't even watch them. I didn't give them a chance. I just thought, oh, it's for adults. It must be devoid of fun. Little did I know, most adults, if not at least some of them, are still basically kids. They haven't really matured. Like this whole idea of, oh, what is a grown up? What is this? What is that? How are you supposed to act? I know some adults that act like fucking kids and are as stupid as kids. Like this whole notion of, oh, this is what an adult is. While it is a good, basis point for people to try and strive for, it's very far from the reality. I thought the reality was this is what you have to be. You don't have to be anything. And then it gets into a little bit of toxic, I want to say masculinity, but just toxic societal views. But overall, this whole image I personally had of, oh, if you're an adult, you need to do this, you need to be this way, you need to be responsible, this, and that. Well, you should be responsible in terms of acting and liking certain things. You don't have to do shit for that. And it really took me a while to really let that sink in. But once I saw more and more of the adult world and older people not having their shit together, I realized, like, even though we're not kids anymore, even though we do learn stuff, we're still very similar to how we were, unless, we're just built different. Unless you went through either A, something traumatic, or B, you're just actually really mature. But a lot of adults are not very adult like from what I've been taught or how I thought it was supposed to be, which is crazy.
For everybody. I do not judge people who stay at home. I don't care if they're 20, 30, 40.
I applaud them. Anything that people can do to save money, I fucking applaud them.
50, 60.
And I get sad for them because sometimes they sacrifice.
Not everybody is in a situation or a predicament to where they can afford to pay certain things. And it's not to say that all of these people are lazy and have no ambition, because truth be told, you don't know what these people got. These people could be sitting on $200,000 and you don't even know that. At the end of
And the sad part is that used to be a lot of money. Now I don't even think that feels like a lot of money, at least in New York.
the day, what somebody else chooses to do is not your damn business. Why is somebody else's living situation such a bother to you?
Honestly, I mean, this is where I hate when people say these things. This is where, like, she'll get docked a couple points off the test for me. Because even though you shouldn't shame anyone, you should still be allowed to say your opinion, obviously in a respectful way. Or even if it's like, it's gonna come off as disrespectful no matter what, you should still be allowed to sort of like think about things and look at things in a holistic view, right? What do people staying at home do? What does it do? I mean, we could pair it with technology and say overall it's making people more introverted. If people are at home with their parents, maybe they don't want to go out, right? Maybe they could just stay home. So you can ask like the bigger questions of, what does this mean? I don't think people should be shamed for what they're doing, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't question it to actually learn about it. But at that point, it's respectful, so it should be okay. But yeah, even though it's none of your business, it's still something you could always learn something from anything. There's trends everywhere.
I said what I said back then, and I said what I said now.
Kudos to this lady. Congratulations to her to not folding under the weight of the fucking internet. Because again, you could cure cancer, like I said with Mr. Beast. You could do anything, and someone is gonna have an issue with it. So you gotta like, it's very hard because again, with me specifically, when enough people say something around me, even if I know I'm right, I'll start to doubt myself. But it takes a certain grit to be able to face it and hold your ground. Now, granted, you don't want to do that always because what if you're actually wrong? But you take it per situation. But kudos to this lady, yo. This lady is really, really speaking facts. Let's go next.
That run this industry that say, look, times are changing. We are not making as much money as we once did. This is not the golden era of television. Although
I could already tell this is going to be good. So again, like I say in every episode, this is so far back. We're so far behind in the videos that I've sent myself. I don't remember what these are. I might remember as we start watching, but a lot of these I honestly just do not remember.
some of us would argue the shows are great. What do you say to them?
I think this one is oh no, I see it in the corner. I'm stupid. I didn't look at the creator. Yeah, it's Adam Conover. I love this guy. This guy cites his sources.
So I'd point out the fact that David Zaslav, the CEO of Warner Brothers Discovery, which is, the parent company of the network I'm talking to you on right now, was paid $250 million last year.
Bruh.
$250 million. That's about
to
the
do
same
what?
level as what 10,000 writers are asking him to pay all of us collectively, all right?
In just 1 year.
So I would say if you're being paid $250 million, Ted Sarandos...
A year. So here's my question, right? Is that what his company's earning, or is that what he specifically is being paid, separate from what the company costs to run and everything? Because if that's his personal stuff, like, that's just insane. Who needs that much money? Now, I'm not saying, don't earn that much money, or you shouldn't be allowed to make above a certain amount of money. But it just makes me question, like, if you're allowed to make that much and that's your personal money, which is, profits from your company after costs of your company, if you're running it right, and your employees are starving, that is so morally wrong. And, like, it's hard to make laws around morals, especially ones that are subjective, because then you become too restrictive. But, like, come on. I think any normal person who's not rich and blinded to, like, the realistic of society, or the realism of society, is gonna see, like, okay, there's something wrong here. You're making 250 million a year, and then, like, your people are starving and they can't afford to live. Like, what's going on here?
Sarandos made about 50 million last year. These companies are making enormous amounts of money. Their profits are going up. It's ridiculous for them to plead poverty when the
Yes.
writers who are making their shows, some of them are not able to pay their rent or their mortgages. I literally know writers who have had to go on assistance because they have not been
Ridiculous.
able to make their year.
And the question is, I question, how do they go on assistance? Because, again, if you're working full time, you're not below the poverty line. So at that point, they probably have to lie.
If you look at these companies, they're making more money than ever. It's the people who make the shows for them that are making less.
Again, the story of the whole way of society. The rich man, just profits off of the people under him, and he makes the profit while the rich people toil away. What the hell? What happened to the video? Oh no. Oh no, technical difficulties. Oh Jesus. Okay, that's a surprise for later. Hopefully no one saw that too well.
It's ridiculous for them to plead poverty when the writers who are making their shows, some of them are not able to pay their rent or their mortgages.
Ridiculous.
I literally know writers who have had to go on assistance because they have not been able to make their year. If you look at these
My
companies, they're making
God.
more money than ever. It's the people who make the shows for them that are making less.
Adam Conover, thank you so much for coming on.
She's like, oh, thank you. Bro, it's so crazy. Also, I don't know why the video keeps pausing. It's not even done yet, but I mean, it's pretty much done. We don't want to stick on this because we have a lot of stuff to watch. But yeah, Adam is saying all truth.
What the fuck? Up this house like this? It's that big bitch. I got some for that ass, bitch. Oh my, he just put fentanyl in me. I'm on fire. Help! Exactly what the fuck your dumb ass get, bitch. I'm gonna have carpet burn on my pussy. God damn it!
So I just wanted to play that one to wake some people up in case they use this to fall asleep to my lovely, lovely voice, and to include some comedy in these depressing videos. So yeah, I guess to relate it back to what we're watching.
What the fuck? Up this house like this? It's that big bitch. I got some for that ass.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna equate this to she's the rich business person stealing from the employees and telling them their COVID sick time has to come out of their personal time. So a little story that hits close to home. But yeah, I hope this was funny. I hope people enjoyed this one. Let's go next. Enough of breaking from the depression. Let's go more depression. Yes, AOC. Yes, my TikTok isn't working. I'm so scared to refresh it too. Oh my god, I'm so scared to refresh it. The AOC one isn't working. All right, hold on. We're gonna see if we can solve this one. Hold up. Okay. I think it might have been taken offline.
This week,
Oh, no, we're good.
Republicans introduced their legislation to bring the
So, this is where I know AOC is a divisive person. I know she's definitely polarizing. I know some people love her, some people hate her. I personally, just to lay the carpet bare, just to tell it out there, I don't know of the bad things she did, and she probably has done bad things. I'm not gonna, say she hasn't, because it's my big belief now, knowing what I know, that almost everyone in power either A, does fucked up shit, or B, profits off the fucked up shit that other people do. And, there's obviously a lesser of the two evils, like for instance, Bernie, right? I think Bernie and Trump basically summed it up correctly, where, especially Trump said this too, where, oh, these tax laws that are in place that we're arguing against, have we used them? Of course we use them. Who wouldn't? If you were in the same position, you'd use them too. But we're trying to get rid of them. Of course we're going to use what we can while we're here, right? Of course we're going to take advantage of things while we can, but we should get rid of them because it's not fair. Who's not going to use a cheat when it's right there and everyone else is using it, right? You're going to be weakened to even fight everyone else. Like, it doesn't make any sense. But I respect them for saying the truth and still wanting to get rid of it, because it's one thing to use it and hide it, but it's another thing to use it and still actively say, hey, this isn't right, let's get rid of it. So, I think AOC is in that boat where she obviously has done fucked up shit, but at least she's like talking good stuff. So again, I know she probably has some like, skeletons in her closet, but she's saying some good stuff. And she plays League of Legends, so that's a plus in my book, even though it's a negative in other people's.
United States government into default. That is what is happening. And that would introduce a destabling and profoundly unprecedented process that would initiate across the board cuts of an estimated 22% to
Whoa.
most agency budgets, including cuts to life-saving medical care, Social Security, student debt, SNAP benefits, and in all of
A lot of things for a lot of the poor people.
that, my colleagues seem to forget another way to solve our impending fiscal crisis. This isn't just about continued cuts to the poor and to the working class in our essential services, but we can raise revenue. In fact, in tax cuts in 2017 passed by the other side of the aisle, we see wonderful tax cuts for yacht owners and private jets.
Yeah.
But in order to balance our budget now,
What the fuck is happening to TikTok? Okay, well, as you could see live, or I guess recorded, TikTok is having issues, and I'm not gonna edit these out. So basically, what she's saying is, hey, we tax the poor, but we like give breaks to the rich. Why? Because the rich control the fucking like government. But yeah, essentially what she's saying here is all like truth. So let me actually see if I rewind it, what happens. Okay, fuck. Let me try and do
This
something
week-
here. Let me try and do some monkey magic here.
for yacht
Okay, cool.
owners
It worked.
and private jets. But in order to balance our budget now, we're talking about cuts to SNAP, to
Poor
food
people.
out of babies' mouths.
Oh yes,
instead
not the
of
children.
actually re-examining the inequities within our tax system.
So basically, she is saying something correct here, but this is one thing that I never understood. So remember before I said I didn't understand, like, 2-week notices and tipping culture? Another thing I don't understand is how the government runs the government the way it does economically. So I'll give everyone a spoiler alert here. This was from 426, aka April 26th. We're in June 3rd at the time of this recording, because it's 12:30 at night right now. Or in the morning rather. So at this point, this whole debt, ceiling limit crisis bullshit, it's basically almost guaranteed been averted. And this is what happens every single time. Granted, we got pretty close this time, but this isn't the first time we've gone pretty close. It usually ends up this way. So, what happened? Basically, we're probably not going to default, but both sides are upset because they're not getting what they wanted. They had to compromise, and it set the precedent for the debt limit, the debt ceiling, to be a bargaining chip for both sides, I believe. Now, here's the main issue. The main issue is everyone's arguing, we need to raise the debt limit, we need to raise the debt limit. Raising the debt limit isn't an issue. It just prolongs the problem. And so, again, I'm going to repeat myself, but as Brian from Clear Value Tax says on YouTube, raising the debt limit just makes things worse because the interest rates are going to keep going. Inflation's going to keep going. It could just keep going for longer, but eventually the train has an end station here. The track doesn't go on forever. Eventually, this train that keeps going and going and going and doesn't have an off break because people don't want it to have an off break because that's not how society works anymore. Because if we stop, God forbid we stop funding some programs like defense, right? How will we combat China from taking us over? As if we don't have like the world's biggest military that can sustain us. So essentially, we're just furthering the problem of, hey, we can keep going into further debt and make inflation worse for longer. Instead of losing everything, we're just going to make it worse over a longer period of time until it breaks and we don't know what to do. Because there's no solution to this. Instead of getting rid of our debt, we're just saying, okay, we're going to owe more. We keep putting out IOUs. Eventually, it's going to come tumbling down. We just don't know when. But thankfully, Brian says it's not going to be in this economic cycle, and I believe him. Because he's very trustworthy. He has a master's, and he's a self-made multimillionaire. So, he has no reason to lie to us. He wants us to be rich, like him. So anyway, yeah, pretty sad stuff. But, yeah, raising revenue isn't going to fix the system. So this is why I actually disagree with AOC. I think she's just saying wishful thinking, but she is using it as a vehicle to basically attack the rich, which, if the rich paid their fair share in taxes, maybe we could solve the debt limit. Maybe. I mean, what is Elon Musk's worth again? Let's see. Elon Musk worth? Okay, so he's worth billions. Okay, we're in the trillions. Never mind. Never mind. We cannot pay off our debt by taxing just the rich. I'm stupid. Okay, let's go next video.
This infrastructure was not built using existing wealth.
No way.
Instead, in order to accelerate growth,
Yes.
federal and state funds were used to build these places, paid for by government bonds. Now, you could
Whoa.
argue that debt in itself isn't necessarily a problem,
Hey, we just
as long
talked
as
about
that debt
that.
can be repaid.
Mm-hmm.
But as we've discussed in previous episodes, sprawling car-dependent places cannot sustain themselves.
Whoa.
The amount of tax revenue collected is not sufficient to cover the replacement cost of the infrastructure.
Wow.
The roads, electrical wires, water pipes, and wastewater systems are spread out over a huge area, while servicing very few people who actually pay for it. This creates an illusion of wealth.
Just like what the poor people try and do.
These cities and suburbs look wealthy because of their new infrastructure, but in the long term, they're financially insolvent.
You know what's going to be crazy? I actually think what he says is true, because there's a lot of places that have really good houses, but over time people just either A, can't afford it, or B, all the real estate prices go down because the place is literally shit, like this guy is describing. And then over time you're going to see these nice ass houses just become overrun, decrepit, old, unkempt, because either A, people are going to leave, or B, homeless people are going to come in, because that's what's in the town now. And it's gonna basically be inhabited by homeless people who can't live there anymore, at least financially.
But the effects of this are not seen until that infrastructure is due to be replaced, which only starts to happen after about 25 years.
So there's a lag effect.
When these infrastructure maintenance bills come due, the city needs to find a way to pay for them, and if the city is not growing, they can't just sweep the problem under the rug.
Like our government does.
The first reaction of many people is to just increase tax revenues.
Who the fuck is... Like, people are so stupid because they don't realize that affects them. When you tell anyone, oh, how are we going to pay for this? They'll say, oh, tax the rich, right? The rich are, first of all, the rich should get taxed. They could pay for a lot, but the taxes are going to go up for everyone.
But this shows a lack of understanding of the scale of the problem. Strong Towns has several examples from actual real-world cities and towns. Tampa, Florida, for example, needs to pay $3.2 billion to repair its water systems.
Just its water, by the way.
Requiring an 8 times increase in spending. Fun fact, Tampa already pays more in debt payments on water infrastructure than it spends on maintaining water infrastructure.
Crazy.
An extreme case is the small town of Bacchus, Minnesota, which was at the end of life of its wastewater system. But because this town was made up of sprawling, low-productivity, car-centric infrastructure, the wastewater system was sprawling and wasteful as well.
Oh.
This replacement cost was $27,000 per family, which was the median household income in the town.
So it's almost like it's going to cost your entire income to replace just one thing, which you need, water.
You can't just tax people their entire yearly income.
New York would disagree.
Of course, in any sane country, a small, low-density town wouldn't have a wastewater system. Each home would have its own septic tank, maintained by the household. But this is the problem with the American mentality around car-dependent sprawl. Everybody expects urban services with near-rural densities. Municipal water and sewer systems, buried electrical cables, traffic lights, garbage collection, fully paved multi-lane arterial roads to every neighborhood. But they're not willing to actually pay for it. The American dream never said nothing about maintaining your own septic tank.
So this is where this video brings up a very common theme I believe I've mentioned before of technology, as well as innovation, not just in technology and medicine as well, has increased at such a rapid rate that, number one, it's unsustainable. We're literally going too fast in some areas, and this is one of the best examples of it. We're improving things too fast where it literally can't sustain itself. We're building a place that costs this much, but there's not going to be enough people to support it, but we want it to look nice, and we have the technology, so why not use it? People aren't thinking. Now, we are in the 21st, I think, 21st century. We're in 2023 now. So you would think every place in America, is up to code, is up to standard, has like modern living arrangements. That shouldn't be the case just yet because, again, first of all, our economy's fucked, but second of all, our population is massively packed in the cities, right? So this is where like one of the upsides of living in New York is because there's so many people, it generates so much revenue from them fucking stealing it from us. There's a lot of stuff and services here for us that actually make sense because we're too populated. We have the opposite problem of this. We're too populated to where we're fucking like falling on top of each other in the subway, right? So you can have these like, paid for things by the city, by the government, because it makes sense to have them there. But they're putting it there when it doesn't even make sense because they're trying to expand too fast. So again, not just with technology, which is the main one I usually talk about, but also with just, development. It's crazy, but it's true. Imagine paying your whole yearly income just to like treat your water, just to have a running toilet, not having to dig a hole in your backyard. Okay, so hopefully the video loads and I don't have to finagle it again, but it looks like I might have to. Okay, let's give it a second. Just like Rocky from SpongeBob. Okay, Rocky, take your time. Excuse me. Whew. So I guess in the meantime, while we pray to God that it's gonna load, we could kind of look at the comments here. So obviously the little subtitles here say, tenants and city council members take over stage as New York City Rent Board votes on rent increases. Isn't that lovely? So there's a lot of things to be said about this. I guess we'll just treat this like a picture for right now, if nothing else. If it ever decides to fucking work, which it's not.
This
Wow, this is very sad. But anyway, we can look at the comments, right? Quan Cherry says rent rollback to 600 and 500 because the apartments are still the same. Isn't that a fact, right? But see, this is the problem where because of inflation, because our debt limit keeps increasing, one thing affects the other. So rent can't stay the same because everything else is increasing in price. And because everything else is increasing in price, you would assume wages are going to increase, and they do, but not as fast as inflation. So this is where the root of the system basically is, right? Inflation's increasing, pay isn't increasing with it, but goods and other stuff, are increasing according to inflation, and sometimes worse. Sometimes not as bad, but most of the times worse than inflation, at least for some foodstuffs. So at this point, what are tenants and city council members supposed to do? So I'm honestly shocked the city council members did it, but I'm not surprised the tenants did. Now again, this is where I wouldn't recommend doing this. This is where again, like it's bordering into violence. Well, obviously they're not violent yet. They say take over, but no one's fighting. It's just, this guy hopped up on stage and I guess is screaming or something, and people are cheering him on, obviously, and the council members are just looking at this hoot nanny and saying, "What the hell?" But there's no like hard violence yet. It's just kind of civil disobedience. But again, I'm gonna say it again, like I always do in all the other episodes. What do we do, right? If talking isn't working, what are we supposed to do? Violence, sadly, at certain points gets things done. Again, I'm not advocating for violence. I'm just saying, historically speaking, that's what pushes a lot of the change really quickly. So, it looks like at this point, the video is not going to play, and it looks like the next video is going to play. So, I guess we'll just read the description here. Tenants and city council members disrupted the New York City Rent Guidelines Board meeting as the board considered outrageous rent increases. Like, what the hell? How are they going to increase rent further? Do they want a homeless problem on their hands? I feel like, honestly, people just do not care or see other people as humans. Either that or they just don't have a realistic view of reality, again, because they're probably rich, right? Like, oh, just pick yourself up by your bootstraps and do it. Okay, so what about all the jobs for minimum wage that need to get done? What about McDonald's? What about Taco Bell? Oh, you like eating food? Well, guess what? No one's gonna work those jobs then if they pick themselves up by their bootstraps and get better jobs, as if that was possible, right? As if there was enough jobs to fill up all the higher earning positions or all the people who wanted them. So at that point, someone needs to be eating shit. Someone needs to have the lowest minimum wage job because they are very important. They are central. So at that point, those people are going to get fucked. So they're essentially just arguing, yeah, certain people should get fucked even though we need them. It's so stupid. But anyway, they're considering outrageous rent increases. The board took a preliminary vote to approve 2 to 5% increases for 1 year leases and 4 to 7 increases for 2 year leases. Devastating hikes for working New Yorkers who are already struggling to make rent and meet their basic needs. Isn't that right? And then I like how the hashtag is housing is a human right, but I don't like how this shit isn't playing. Oh, there we go. Okay, cool. Wow. I just needed a couple times. So if you can't tell, they're saying rent rollback. So I don't know why they're doing it towards the crowd. I'm pretty sure the crowd agrees with them. They should turn around and do it towards the council members who are voting on this shit. But you know, who knows? At least it didn't get violent. But yeah, I basically said all I needed to say. So anyway, pretty good video, but just showing how outrageous New York City is. Let's take a look. Let's take a look here again, just to remind everyone. Bronx average rent. Average rent in the Bronx. Oh, would you look at that? 2,125. So the overall cost of living in the Bronx is 50% lower than New York City's average. And this is the problem when working with averages. They get skewed by the really high up numbers and the really low ones. But luckily enough, with what we're dealing with, there's no low numbers. It's all high. The average two-bedroom is 2,395. And again, to not repeat myself fully from last time, because everyone should be watching all the videos I make on the TikTok series, but essentially, full-time minimum wage work gets you a little shy of $2,000 pre-tax, I believe. Now, let me actually fact-check myself because I don't want to be wrong. 15 times 40 times 4. Okay, no, so pre-taxes, it gives you 2,400. Post-taxes, it'll give you times point. We'll do your actual tax rate, which is like 12%. So we'll do times 88. So you're making about. Okay, I was wrong. I was wrong. After everything, if you take, the standard, well, I don't even know about the standard deduction, but after everything, you're making about $2,112. Usually. Now, again, this is not including rent. This is not including food. This is not including transportation. This is including nothing. So again, you still cannot afford rent, no matter what. So my point still stands, but I was a little off with the numbers.
Fascinating research shows that the human Y chromosome, which essentially makes men men, is slowly disappearing. And scientists are now divided on what this could mean for the future of the male species.
As if men didn't have it hard enough already, bruh. As if, like, us fellow guys, I'm speaking to all my men out there, because I know there's so many women that watch these videos, but for the dudes, right? For the dudes, like, bruh, it's already hard enough out here to get a woman who actually loves you and isn't like a Snapchat or OnlyFans whore. I didn't mean that in a bad way. That was a joke because I could get crucified for that one. A lot of women and men at this day and age don't even want to like have relationships, right? They just want to fling, they just want to fuck, right? So just combine that with how hard it is for men, at least socially, emotionally, and stuff. And I'm not saying it's not hard for women. It's hard for women in different ways, but just going off the literal facts alone of look at the suicide rate for men, right? Men have it hard in some ways worse than women. So we already have it so bad in some ways that we don't really know how to solve because of the culture, toxic masculinity. But it's like, bruh, now we're disappearing? What the hell? What are we gonna go into like some dystopian future where women have to fuck like sex bots? Or we're born in vitro? Like what the hell?
You see, when you look at the DNA structure in men and women, females have
yes, I do that every day.
2 X chromosomes, while males have an X and a Y.
But the Y literally looks like one that just didn't fully form. Really telling of men, huh?
Research has shown, and excuse the pun, the human male's Y chromosome seems to be battling with the old pesky shrinkage. Some experts suggest that the Y chromosome will completely leave our DNA in roughly 5 million years. How about we just make it through 2023 first? And due to the lack of men in the world, there would be major fertility problems leading to human extinction. But at the same time, not the worst era.
I feel like by that time, though, because again, they said like, what, 5 million years? This is where, and I don't understand the comments here. The comments here are saying Carl effect. I don't know what the fuck that is, but the first thing I think of is from Aqua Teen Hunger Force. But I believe in 5 million years we'll have enough DNA research and DNA technology to really circumvent this, because already we can like sort of genetically engineer our children. At least the rich people can. Like you can decide whether you want to have a male or a female child. You can decide actually a lot of things about your child beforehand. And you know what's crazy? I learned about that in a trip I took in middle school. I'm 25 years old now, like I just said. In a trip in middle school, or at the very beginning of high school that I took, we went to a college And at the college, they were saying, like, oh, yeah, we can do these things with the human womb. We could do these things, like, before the baby is born. And these are doable things. Now, granted, it was only for the rich, right? It was really expensive. But if that could be done back then, and again, if technology evolves and improves at an exponential rate, just imagine what we could do now, let alone in a million years. Like, I'm pretty sure we'll have the problem finished, but it's just sad to hear that it is a problem. For men.
Not to be around as a man, though. However, other researchers believe that this isn't going to be a problem at all, stating that we would just simply move over to another chromosome to produce males as other species have done. But the question is, whose Y chromosome has started this process 5 million years too early? Fascinating.
Oh, there's going to be a subset of the human race that is just, there's going to be certain people carrying the gene to just, like, not have, like, men. It's just going to be women or, like, different genetic men, I guess. That's crazy. More and more, like, as time goes on, things are just getting crazier, man. Dark dimension. All right, let's keep going.
This is terrifying. The man who is considered the
okay, I think we're finally getting into some of the AI stuff. Not the bulk of it, but I think some of them.
Godfather of AI has just quit his job at Google and compared his work to the creator of the atomic bomb. Anyone else?
Now, this is something that I think people don't really fully realize, right? I got very scared when AI started being able to replicate voices as good as it was. Because again, this is just the beginning. It's only going to get better, and we're simply going to eventually not be able to recognize AI from real people with certain things, right? I've always said this scenario of, what if AI voices get so good, a quote-unquote leaked message from Vladimir Putin saying he's going to nuke, New York on this date leaks, and then New York responds, kindly in turn with blowing them the fuck up. And what if that leak was actually just some kid playing on a Minecraft server trying to impress his friends, right? What if that's what happens and we can't tell if it's fake or not? And that's just from a kid, playing Minecraft, right? Imagine if the government started using these in more malicious ways, not only against each other, but against their people. Like, it's just really fucking scary. And, like, this is not a big jump to say, like, this is similar to the atomic bomb in terms of, like, what it could do and how it could affect society. It's really fucking scary. Hopefully, I'm crossing my fingers when I say this, and I'm not joking about that. If I had a face cam, you'd see it. But hopefully this is used for the betterment of people. It's used to, liberate us from work, help the wealth inequality. But realistically, in this dark dimension, we know what it's going to be used for. It's going to be used to help exploit us more. It's going to be used to help keep us in line more, and then we're probably going to kill each other over it. So it is what it is.
Anyone else tired of living through unprecedented times? Geoffrey Hinton is the man who helped design the systems which paved the way for current AI models like ChatGPT. But now he says that...
It's crazy. So ChatGPT and Bard AI, I've used both of them. At first, I was very impressed with Bard AI. I was talking to it, and honestly, it to me, it passes the Turing test. It obviously does. The only thing it doesn't do is it's not an actual human, and you can ask it specific questions to basically realize, like, it's an AI. Basically, it's hard-coded to always answer you with, like, what you want to hear, essentially, right? So I'll give you an example. I told Bard AI, hey, Bard AI, if I tell you my other Google account, can you remember it? It said yes, right? And then, like, I did this whole experiment where I went on my other Google account after on my first one telling it, okay, this is my Google account. Is your memory shared between everything? It said yes. I'm like, okay, if I go on the new account while telling you on here that new account is still, me in the real world, will you know that? And it said yes, and it didn't. But essentially, like, it's still obvious that it's not AI, but it's getting closer. I'm telling you, it's getting closer to being able to, like, be really, really self-sufficient. It's getting very scary. Very, very scary.
That part of him regrets it and says things are getting scary. He's concerned about how much better AI works than everyone expected and how rapidly it's advancing. He believes that we could be about to descend into an era where AI will flood the internet with false photos, videos, and text, and people will simply not be able to tell what's true anymore. And when he talks about the existential threat of these things becoming more intelligent than us, boy, do I become a scared boomer real quick. He says that the kind of intelligence that AI is developing is very different to our own. The big difference is that you have all of these systems that can learn separately but share their knowledge instantly.
So it's as if you had 10,000 people, and whenever one person learned something, everybody automatically knew it.
And then extend that number to millions or billions, and we have a bloody problem. So the question is, should we put AI on hold or just let it run wild?
This is where, unless there's government intervention, which as we've talked a lot on this series, really only happens at the behest of the rich people. So unless the rich people think it's not going to be good for them, which, let's be honest, they're going to use this to profit so hard. Like, it's going to be insane. I can already see a future where almost all jobs, at least lower level jobs, are replaced with AI. So there's a huge population of people that can't compete with AI, don't have actual skills because they're not, as Andrew Tate would call them, like in the hustlers club. So they're just kind of left without a job, and there's no more jobs because AI can automate everything, and there's just not much that these people can do, and there's overabundance of people. So at this point, you know, what are they supposed to do? So the only way it goes away is if the government really outlaws it. And even then, it's still going to progress, just way slower. But I don't think the government's going to outlaw it because the rich people are going to want it to cut costs from the worker. You don't have to pay it health insurance, you don't have to give it time off, and it works 24/7. Think about that. Like, it's a no brainer the rich people are going to like this.
Just in the past few weeks, China has brokered Saudi peace talks with Yemen and Iran, reaffirmed ties with Russia, hosted the French president for talks, encircled Taiwan at a massive military exercise, and I'm not even scratching the surface. Seeing this happen without missing a beat, media and creators were quick to talk about the end of the dollar as a global reserve currency. And while it's easy to get swept up in this de-dollarization frenzy, it's important to remember that the yuan, China's official currency and the so-called successor to the dollar, is still used less than the Swiss franc on a global basis. A currency issued by a nation of just 8 million people. My point is, while de-dollarization is trending up, without something dramatic like a default, it doesn't look like the dollar's getting dethroned anytime soon.
And again, I think we're avoiding the default. Again, spoiler alert. So this is where, in the beginning, I'm not gonna lie, I thought he had me. I thought I sent this to myself to prove like what's wrong, because this guy, in the first 30 seconds was like, oh, China's doing this, China's doing that, and I was gonna go back to Dr. Huey Lee, or the lovely Asian man we like to fawn over. I was gonna go back to him saying like, oh, but he has all the facts saying, China, even though they're doing these things, it's not making much of an impact. But luckily, this guy changed his tactics. He really had me. He really had me.
Here's where it gets interesting though. The US isn't just gonna sit back and watch its dominance get chipped away at.
Yeah, that's one thing we can guarantee the US does not do. They don't sit back. They always want to be ahead of the curve, and they get their grubby little hands into every country to make sure that if something goes wrong or if something goes right, they can either benefit from it or they can shut it down if they need to. America, unless we have really, really bad leaders, I fully expect to remain on top of the world for a long time because that's what they want.
In recent months, we've seen the establishment of new military bases in the Philippines, multiple high-profile visits to Taiwan, and expanded trade ties in Africa, all with the goal of reasserting the US and the dollar as the major power.
Yep.
So stick with me. There was one geopolitical move by the US a few months ago which might have the most potential, which was when the US quietly allowed 5 oil companies to resume operations in Venezuela on a small scale. Chevron Corporation, Halliburton, Schlumberger, Baker Hughes, and Weatherford.
And you know what's crazy? I always say this, right? You need the master's tools to dismantle his house. If you can't beat him, join him. Guess who owns Chevron? Me. Granted, it's not that much, but I still own some.
The reason that this is such a big deal is because Venezuela has the most proven oil reserves of any country on Earth, but it's barely produced since 2017 due to sanctions.
And you know what's crazy? I mean, it's all over the memes. What is the US like? Oil!
But with China pushing more into the Middle East every day, and with the dollar under more pressure than ever, there's a lot of reasons why the US would want to reopen trade ties with a country like Venezuela. If the president...
That looks like one of the most awkward handshakes ever. The guy on the right looks like he was strong-armed. The guy on the left looks like he just got a lollipop. And the guy on the right looks like, damn, that guy just stole my lollipop, but I'm gonna get shot if I say anything.
President of Venezuela, Maduro, is on good behavior. We could see more sanctions lifted.
If he's on good behavior. Dude, America is really like the big brother of most of the world. But yeah, if you're on good behavior, we'll come in and take your resources. And we'll give you money, don't worry.
In the coming months. If this happens, not only would this shift global oil production firmly into the Americas and reaffirm the dollar as a global reserve currency.
Reaffirm it, by the way. It's already affirmed.
But this would also mean that the 5 companies that have restarted operations in Venezuela are potentially sitting on a gold mine. Because of this, going forward, I'm going to keep an eye on 3 main things from these 5 companies. Corporate jet flights to Venezuela by these company executives, lobbying activity by them mentioning the word trade or Venezuela, and lastly, any stock purchases of these companies by politicians, especially those who sit on energy or trade committees.
Yo, all you gotta look at is Miss Pelosi. She's like one of the most infamous ones for it, for something that should be widely illegal. But again, how can we call out the master of the house for running things the way they do it? We don't own the house. So it's like it baffles. That's the fourth thing that baffles me here. I think we're up to number four, right? 2 week notice, tipping. Um, fuck, I forgot the third one. 2 week notice, tipping, some other bullshit, and then insider trading. I don't know why these things just don't make sense to me. Like how this is still allowed, people know about it, and it's not like we aren't driving her out of office or jailing her.
Because let's face it, if anyone knows about a new energy or trade policy regarding Venezuela, it will be them. I make all this data public on my website, Quiver Quant, if you want to check it out for yourself. Good luck, and thanks for watching.
All right, thank you for telling us, Quiver Quant. Very nice video.
I don't put companies here in New York anymore.
Okay, so here we have Mr. Wonderful. Mr. Wonderful, I'll just get it out the way. I'm a little biased towards him. I don't necessarily like him. I don't know his origins, right? So with a lot of rich people that I hate, I know kind of like, what they came from, if they're rich from like hustling or if they're rich from being born into it. Mr. Wonderful over here is definitely a good businessman, but he has very, let's just say, different views from me and different opinions that I massively don't agree with. One of the biggest things is quiet quitting. Now, of course, he's not going to like quiet quitting because, and as he says, quiet quitting is for losers. No, quiet quitting is for people who don't want to get exploited anymore. And that's probably, and this is the sad thing to say, but I have the belief that if you're at the top, you're exploiting someone. I mean, again, look at the chocolate companies exploiting child labor, right? If you're at the top, you're probably doing some fucked up shit because that's what everyone else at the top is doing to be at the top. And you're probably not the exception. You're also probably doing fucked up shit too to be at the top because that's how everyone is there.
Anymore, or in Massachusetts, or in New Jersey, or in California.
Why, Mr.
Those states
Wonderful?
are uninvestable. The policy here is insane. The taxes are too high.
Oh, yes.
We put them in.
The rich person is saying that, by the way.
Fargo, North Dakota, because 40% of the people work elsewhere, including Boston. So I was, of a bit of a debate with Elizabeth Warren about this, but I say, look, Senator, we've got to move the companies out of your state because you're not investable anymore. You're punishing people if they're successful. You overtax them.
And this is the main issue with New York. I honestly think it's just two things combined. It all goes back into one thing, but it's two separate, kind of separate things. It's stupid leadership, which I guess is the main thing. And the second thing is just like wasteful spending / greediness, right? That could be lumped in with stupid leadership, but it could be separate. But ultimately, at the end of the day, New York City has one of the largest budgets every year. Billions of dollars. Billions. Excuse me. I believe it's hundreds of billions. Let's check our facts here. Let's check our sources. NYC yearly budget. It's $102 billion. And I always say this story recently. Outside of my job in rich Midtown Manhattan, they still, to this week, I'm going to say it every week. Every week we're going to check up on it. To this week, they have not fixed the traffic light or, the crosswalk light that tells us when we can walk or not. It's just ridiculous that the city makes so much money and they have such a big yearly budget and we don't know where it goes. I can tell you where I think it's going. It's going into people's pockets, not the poor people. So, it's probably greed, realistically, and at worst, it's just really stupid people running and then they don't know how to allocate money.
You hit them with a super tax. New Jersey, what a mess. New York, uninvestable.
Wait, why is New York uninvestable?
He just
Try
said
and do
it.
a project in New York. Try and build a
Yeah,
data.
I'm asking, Don's point, is it beyond the taxes?
Oh, the regulatory environment is punitive.
And another example of this, what Mr. Wonderful is saying, I never thought I'd agree with him so like much here, but New York doesn't know what it's doing, despite having the budget of $100 billion, more. New York has no clue what the fuck it's doing because they still don't know how to tax crypto. They don't even probably understand what it is because they're old fossils. So because they don't understand what it is, they don't know how to tax it, so they're not going to allow it. Like, it's so stupid, so behind the times. Like, if New York can't profit off of it, they're not going to allow it. It's so dumb. It's so restrictive, too. It fucks over the people because the people, in New York need side hustles to live, as I've shown. And one of the side hustles that people do is investing in shit coins and altcoins. and hopefully try and make it big. But you can't even do that properly in New York. You have to go through some roundabout, probably, if not illegal, highly unscrupulous method to do it because New York is so restrictive because they're stupid. They don't know what they're doing.
I had a project in upstate New York behind the grid in Niagara Falls for electricity, a global data center we were building.
Wow.
Eventually, it got so bad with the politicians in the local region and the state policy, we moved it to Norway and all the jobs. Norway has it now. Thousands of jobs coming out of that. I mean, that's New York, uninvestable. Sorry,
He's
don't shoot
right.
the messenger, just telling
He's
you the way
right.
it is. That's it.
Again, I hate to agree with Mr. Wonderful, but it is right.
Uninvestable.
Some pushback from our elected officials in New York
I
on
was
that.
just going to say Kathy Hochul.
Yeah, but
I'll
when
debate them any time of the day you want.
we would love to set that up.
Particularly
I'd watch
AOC.
that.
She's great at killing jobs. She
Oh God!
kills
And here's where it is. Here's where one of AOC's skeletons is coming out of the closet.
jobs by the thousands. You know, another New Jersey problem. Where did Amazon take their jobs? They took them away from her. She threatened to sue them if they created jobs. I mean, this is a reality.
See, this is where the thing is complicated, right? Because this is where I'm gonna start disagreeing with Mr. Wonderful here. Amazon is obviously needed, right? But the problem is it a is it a necessary evil? Because I'm pretty sure we've all seen the videos on the internet of Amazon workers being fed up, quitting their jobs after being treated poorly, working like fucking slaves, getting almost nothing in benefits, having to pee in bottles, tracking their time, which is something my job tries to do to me, and it depresses me and makes me go mentally crazy. So it's like, Amazon would help the consumer, but is it good for the worker? This is where I don't know. Because the only way Amazon is going to come to New York, I'm assuming AOC wanted them to do it the right way and actually treat their workers with respect, have them have benefits, this, and that, right? Because one of the main evil things Amazon does is it outsources the work to, like, the delivery drivers for Amazon are outsourced. It's not from Amazon, it's an outsourcing company. So they don't have to provide them benefits and stuff. Amazon saves money and, it fucks over the worker. From what I believe, if I know this correctly. So obviously that's not right. So Mr. Wonderful either A, doesn't know the full situation here, or B, knows it and doesn't care because he's a businessman. Obviously it's in his best interest not to say how another business is exploiting the employee. Don't ask, don't tell.
It's a reality that
There's a little more to it, but let's not relate
well,
that.
sorry,
There's a little
just
more
telling the
to it.
truth.
He's saying what a lot of people are saying, especially what happened with that Amazon thing here in New York. Just real quickly, I don't want to hog the conversation, but what was Elizabeth Warren's response when you said that to her?
Look, I have a lot of respect for her because it's okay to have a debate about politics, but not policy. When you have punitive policy, you're making a mistake. And I want to just put up my hand and say, I don't agree, Senator, with your policy. I respect you as a politician, a very successful one.
Yeah, I wonder why she's successful.
She's very successful, and that's the state where I grew my kids. I mean, our family grew up in Boston, Massachusetts. We left there to move to Florida like everybody else is because it's such a tough place to, this
Yeah, now look at Florida. Florida's like crashing their own economy with Ron DeSantis, like we said.
is a tough message. People really are critical about this, but somebody has to call it out.
And overall, he is right. Again, the Amazon thing is the thing I'm going to question a tiny bit here, but overall, he is not wrong in most of what he's saying. Again, the only thing is, should Amazon be allowed to come in if, they're going to do like fucked up shit to their workers? Yeah, it's going to create jobs, but is it really helping people or is it helping the shareholders and the executives of Amazon? Who really knows? I think we all kind of know what the answer is to that, but, we'll just leave it at that. We'll just leave it at that.
Because this is a competition of states now, and we don't put money there anymore. We put it in other places. And
this is where I actually think it's good for this to happen. I think it's good for places to leave New York specifically because it puts a fire under New York's ass. And the short-term solution that's going to come from this is New York is going to squeeze its poor population and middle-class population even more to try and get the money out. But once they realize, hey, your lower and middle class is in debt, you really can't squeeze any more from us aside from going more in debt. And we already see what that's doing in our government with the debt ceiling and whatever and interest rates, and inflation. So hopefully they'll realize you can't do that. So what do you have to do? You actually have to either A, tax the rich, or B, you actually have to improve things to get businesses to come back. I forgot what the saying is, but I think it's called like a rising sea like lifts all boats or some bullshit. I'm definitely butchering it, but essentially, like, you should raise everything up, not sink everything down.
Jobs are created elsewhere. Over time, this is going to diminish New Jersey, diminish New York,
Good.
diminish
Let it diminish.
Massachusetts, and California out of business.
Thank you. Yes. See, the sad part is it's just going to shift where, and this is where I think, honestly, realistically speaking, it's not going to happen for New York. New York is literally too big to fail. It's too important. The stock market is here. A lot of rich businesses are here, and they don't even fucking care. I mean, some of them are caring. Starbucks left, at least one of the stores that was near me. But, most of the time, like, New York is literally too big to fail. It's like the big banking systems. Like, you can't leave New York. Well, if it gets worse enough, you can't. See, even then, that's how bad New York is. Like, it's not even a guarantee, like, the big businesses won't leave, but pretty much they're pretty much not going to leave with how New York is. It's too big. Like, New York gets so many tourists who are stupid, and, like, it's just too big. You literally have to have a place in New York. You have to, right? Even if you're going to take it at a loss, you have to because it's good for the company overall. Yeah, no, New York could go fuck itself. So again, in the short term, it's gonna be bad, especially for the lower and middle class. But over time, hopefully in the long term, it's gonna improve things because they're gonna realize again, you can't like exploit us anymore. We have nothing left.
Out of business. El Morte. No business there.
El
You can't
Morte.
do business there. I don't know what that place is going to turn into. Maybe a tourist
Ghost
zone,
town.
but
It
no
already
business.
is a tourist
Imagine
zone.
San Francisco. You can't even walk at night out in the street.
It's true.
Sorry.
Talk about what's happening.
I don't put companies.
I like how you keep saying sorry. But anyway, yeah, I mostly agree with Mr. Wonderful here. Very surprising. Let's go next. I want to get through more videos before we have to shove off. We're already an hour 16 in, but I'm planning to do more.
Why do you think the government even came up with housing? You think it's
why?
the American dream?
No, not anymore. We know
Is that
better.
what we think?
Nope.
Because it's not the
Thank
American
you.
dream.
Yes.
What it is the American nightmare.
You know what I
Okay?
actually miss? So I have a lot of strong opinions about education in school. I mean, terrible teachers, terrible students, which, who do you blame at that point? The teacher, the student, or the underlying things like the parents and the system, the funding, who knows? It could go anywhere, right? School has a lot of issues, but one thing I think every child should experience in school is a really good teacher in a really good class. I have had classes, right? I'll give you a perfect example. I had a class called, Greek mythology or some shit. I'm pretty sure it was Greek mythology, and ironic too, because I'm Greek, right? I had this class called, classical Greek mythology in college, and I was like, okay, I'm just taking this because I need to take something and it fits my schedule, right? I didn't expect it to be as fun as it was. I needed to write and do work for it, but honestly, it didn't matter because the professor was such a nice, cool guy. He made the class amazing. Having a good professor in school that opens up your mind is so like it's just such a good feeling, and it's one I really miss. As much as I hate school, I never want to go back. There were good things from it, and this is one of them. Like, the sad part of life is once you leave school, if you're like 99% of the population, and obviously I'm estimating there, but if you're a majority of the population, after you leave school, you're pretty much done learning anything major unless you do it on your own, which again, you have to be a hustler for. If you have time working a full-time job, starving and trying to scrape by, if you have even the mental fortitude to learn anything after that, which some people do, but those are the hustlers. But after school, after college or high school, whatever you're at, you're basically just going to be stuck doing mostly the same thing unless either A, you quit jobs, B, you become a hustler, or C, you get moved up. And even then, things aren't changing probably too much. So after school, most of your life becomes pretty normalized and dull. And it's really sad. It's really sad because, again, I wish like school could be like, this guy's a really good professor, you could tell. He's personable, he's nice, but this is just a critique and showing again why we're in the dark dimension because every system is so messed up, like especially when you compare to other countries too. Other countries have way better schooling systems than us, but the schooling system's messed up, the economy's messed up. I mean, home life is messed up, our culture's messed up, everything is fucking messed up. Dark dimension. But let's see this amazing professor.
Because they lend you $300,000. You know
But you
why?
need more now.
Because the
You don't even
government
need,
controls
like,
the banks.
that little.
Okay, so the government
And what's ironic too? He says MTB there. I owned MTB stock too.
controls the banks and needed a way to lend you money. So they came up with an instrument. What's that instrument? Housing.
Whoa.
Well, we could give them a mortgage against their house. And now we really got them good. So it wasn't enough they put you through school.
Now we really got them good. I love the way this guy describes it.
School and just suppressed us through school and told us that we were just average and you could never have a $30 million house because you're average. They never taught you mind.
See, this is where for my growing up, they did the opposite. They taught us we were shining stars. They taught us we were special. I remember in high school, one day, it was, I believe, an English class, right? I was either a sophomore or a junior. One day of the week, for like a couple weeks in the semester, we had this guy come in, and this guy taught some bullshit like class to us where it was like, oh, like, it was like success training or some bullshit. It was literally, it sounded like bullshit. It was like, oh, learning how to be like great or some nonsense, right? This guy came in and did all these bullshit lessons that the Department of Education probably sponsored, wasting their budget on, where we literally like solved like stupid puzzles and we were all given medals for how like good we were, even if we didn't even solve it. It was like the most stupidest shit I've ever seen. And I was like, wow, they're really trying to make us feel special when not all of us are. Like, it's actually crazy.
Mindset. They never taught you any of that. They taught you go to school, pay your taxes, get a W-2 job, don't be an entrepreneur, and then even go to college. And then when you get out of college and you owe me, the government, with a student loan, another $120,000.
Oh, yes.
Guess what? I got you. Now I own you.
Yeah, they own our
But
ass.
now wait,
They own our
because
children's
you're so good
ass.
and you went to school for $120,000 that you owe me, and you got a $50,000 a year job, and you paid me 50% in taxes.
Yep. Okay,
I'm
well,
gonna
that's,
lend you money.
You know, that's a little bit of a push there. It's not 50% in taxes. As much as it feels like that, if you're making $50,000 a year, your effective tax rate is, I think, somewhere around 18%. Because it's in ladders. Again, not to confuse people or get too complicated, but I think your first 10,000 is taxed at 8%. After that, from like 11 to like 40, it's 12% or something. And then after that, I think it's like 15. Let's just bring up the fucking tax ladder. God damn it. Tax rates. Tax brackets, excuse me. So yeah, look, 10% on the first 10,000. Then after you earn 10,000, everything from 10,000 to 41,000 is at 12%. So, you know, you're not paying 50% in taxes. If you're making 50,000 a year, your effective tax rate is probably going to be around 18%, if not lower, right? The closer you get to 89,000, the closer it's going to be to 22, but it's never going to hit 22 because of these previous ones. So, you know, it is what it is. It is what it is. But yeah, no, that's a little bit of a stretch here.
And after 30 years,
that's just me being literal, though.
This $300,000 house that's your American dream, you paid $700,000 for. To who? Me, the bank.
The government. This is the sad part. Mortgages are so evil. It's one of the things, again, that doesn't make sense in society that got normalized. This is the fifth thing now, as if I remember number 3. But this is the fifth thing now that doesn't make sense in society. Mortgages. You're going to end up paying more interest than you would on the actual home. By more than double the amount.
I'm on to you, government.
Oh.
You understand?
Funny.
They set us up.
See, again, this guy sounds like a conspiracy theorist. Or at least I would have looked at him that way in the past. But again, I feel like more and more things that were considered either A, fringe, or B, conspiracy theories, like, they're starting to be believed as true. That's not to say there's still not conspiracy theories, but, you know, man, other people are saying this shit now.
And then 2008 hits. They did everything wrong. They destroyed lives.
Who eats the
They
shit?
took back houses.
Who eats the
they
shit?
They lost everything. And who gets saved? The people that did it.
Yup.
The people that did it.
The rich bail out
Silicon
the rich.
Valley Bank goes out yesterday. Fractional
SVB.
reserve banking. Here, everybody.
You know what's crazy? This is from 314.
Your money into the bank. So I put 10,000 into the bank. They take my 10,000 and they go get 100,000. They borrow it from the Fed window. They get 10 times the amount of our deposits.
See, this is where I don't know the specifics of what he's saying, but he already fucked up the tax rate. So I'm a little scared to believe the exact numbers of what he's saying, but I'm pretty sure the essence of what he's saying is correct.
That we put into the bank, they then get 10 times the amount.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that 10 times the amount is not accurate.
They then take that 10 times the amount and they put it into treasury bonds or something else that's going to give them a yield of 7% or 6%. While they pay us what? 0.0000 nothing percent.
Honestly, even though that's a wild exaggeration, it's not far off from the reality of some bank accounts pay like 0.01% interest, which is 1% of 1%. Or sorry, 10% of 1%. And it's like, bruh, you're basically paying me pennies. Like every year you're paying me what, a couple bucks maybe? Like, let me calculate this. If you had $100,000 in the bank, which again, assuming you're not one of the 60% of Americans with only $1,000 in the bank, let's say you have 100K in the bank and you're earning interest at 0.001%. Every year you're getting $100. Like, what?
Right. And then what happens? We get hip to it and say, hey, Mr. Silicon Valley Bank, can I have my money back?
You know how we get hip to it? The internet.
Oh, we don't have it right now. I want my money back. I don't have it. Everybody, I want my money back. Give us our money back. Hold on. We got to go sell the treasury bonds that we invested in that now are upside down because the rates are through the roof. I don't have
This guy's
money.
funny, yo.
So what has to happen to their Ponzi scheme? That I would have went to jail if I did that? They get bailed out.
That is such a true point, by the way. Again, again, we're just repeating shit, man. The rich can get away with murder, except if you're Jeffrey Epstein, and he got away with God knows how much until he couldn't. But it really goes to show you that these people, what did they get? They didn't go to jail. All they did was they got fired to probably get jobs somewhere else or retire peacefully because they had so much money.
Biden comes up and says, oh, I'm going to print more money. I wonder why he's going to print more money. To devalue your dollar even more.
Yes.
Because guess what they're doing next to you? They're going to centralize banking.
But now,
they're going to own crypto.
Now,
they're going to regulate everything to be digital.
But now.
So this is the first step to doing it. And they're going to own us. We got to wake up because that's what's happening. And next...
You know what's sad? Even if these people wake up and a majority of people wake up, I don't know if it's too late anymore. But like, hoping enough of us wake up is wishful thinking. Where it's like, I think it's already kind of too late. So it's like, how, what can we even change? The sad part is people are learning about this. And again, that's depressing them because they're like, what can we even do anymore?
There's a war going to go on between China or between Russia, and we're right in the middle.
Yeah, or they're going to fight with us.
And then you look at these companies like BlackRock.
Oh,
Does
yes,
anybody ever hear of BlackRock?
I own them.
Or Vanguard?
I own Vanguard, too.
How coincidental. Since 9/11, you own everything. You own everything. You own Pfizer. You own Moderna. Just coincidentally, but we don't know who the hell you are. You're never on TV.
Yeah, when you own everything, you don't need to be on TV.
Apple, you own Facebook. So you own everybody's identities, everybody's information. You own Smith & Wesson.
Guns.
You own manufacturers of guns.
Oh, yes.
We're going to war. It just seems you're everywhere.
They're going to profit no matter what. If the country's in war, they're going to profit. If, technology is booming, they're going to profit. If housing is booming, they're going to profit. They own every sector.
We're at the right time to make all the money, and you're the biggest company in the world, but you're never on the news. We never hear about you.
They don't want to be heard about.
Yeah, man, we got serious problems.
Yeah, that's an understatement. Yo, this guy knows what's up. All right, let's go next video. Good video, though.
This dude claims that by 2024, you'll be able to replace around 50% of your software developers with GPT-4.
Oh my God, we're finally up to the AI. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. I think we're going to end it here. I don't want to go into a lot of the AI. Let's see how much we got through. Did we get through any meaningful amount? Fuck, I don't think we did. Okay, did we? Oh my God, we didn't really go through a lot. God fucking that. Yeah, we got through not even I don't think 20. Oh my God. I want to keep going, but we're on May 5th. Yeah, we're on May 5th. We got past what? 2 days? We got past 3 days, bruh. Oh my Lord. Okay, so I really want to start with the AI stuff because I think this is the beginning of it, where like AI starts popping up. But I don't want to spoil us for the next time. We obviously see some pictures here already, but we're gonna leave it here. I think we're gonna leave this episode here. We've already been going for about an hour and a half, almost exactly at this point. So let's like this video right here. There we go. And we'll end it here. I hope everyone enjoyed about things. You know, I think I'll title this episode "Things I Don't Understand About Society" version, epic, or 3 a.m. or some shit. But yeah, no, I hope everyone enjoyed. Again, if you want to send me anything that is a depressing video, add my main TikTok account, which is Technics. Send me things there, and hopefully I'll see them, even though I'm already behind. And they might show up in here. And you know, if you like what I do and you want to interact with me live, I'm on Twitch TV Technics channel every day, usually at night. After this, I'm going to go streaming too at 1:30 in the morning, and we're going to have some fun. So if you want to have fun, you want to hang out and watch me grind games, come over there. Anyway, hope everyone enjoyed, and that's going to be it.